If you don't know why things are happening in the economy, it's hard to buy something from you or do a deal with you. All right, guys, welcome to the Game of Money podcast with Oren Klaff. I'm the author of Pitch Anything. I'm a private equity manager. I'm an investor, and I'm a dad. Let me reintroduce myself on that basis. Again, this is the Game of Money podcast. I'm a dad. I'm the author of Pitch Anything. Those are two things I love. I have to do private equity to make money and afford to do all of these things. And I'm an investor. You're probably here because you want what I call pickup lines, right? You see these thumbnails on YouTube or Instagram, make $1,000. Click that, and guess what you're gonna do? You're not gonna make $1,000. Buy a business, no money down. Click that. Guess what you're not gonna do? You're not going to buy a business, no money down. Very difficult. So the things that you see on YouTube, you keep clicking on them. So do I. I like to check out what's there. But that is called, of course, clickbait. It's a click and a bait, perfectly named. There's nothing behind there. So if you want to learn how to invest, you want to learn how to make money, you want to know how to do deals, you want to know how to negotiate, you learn how to ask for stuff or pitch, there's no one click. I'll give you an example. And we'll get to this in a minute, but since 2000, I bought 1,000 motorcycles, probably 1,200 motorcycles. Really, you see a couple of them behind me here if you're looking at the video. And it's because I love it. I learned how to make a trade or a business out of it, and it's a whole story. I had my mechanic here the other day, and he works on the motorcycles, and he comes in, and it can be overwhelming if you walk in here. On some days, there's 20, 30 motorcycles. We have a little motorsports museum, a bunch of cars from history, right? It's very a Porsche 930 twin turbo, very rare vehicle. We have a 240Z with the RB26 motor. So we have some vehicles here that are pieces of history that are iconic. There were posters on the wall when I was in college that were on Road and Track magazine cover cars. And the mechanic says to me, you have to show me how to make money. Bing! Prepare to go level 1, completed. Desire to do better than where you are today. So very likely, my mechanic, wonderful guy, Mikey, if he's listening to this, sorry to throw you under the bus and use you as an example, but he's living in what I would call the sheep economy. He's brilliant, can fix float balls, know how to start a motorcycle that hasn't run in 5 years, unpack complicated mechanical problems in carburetors, which is a witchcraft black art of science. He can do all of those things, and he's amazing, but it's not that he's not smart. It's not that he's not good at problem solving. It's not that he's not a good business person. Not that he's not super capable. It's just that he's living his business life in the sheep economy, buying an iPhone, putting money in the bank, maybe buying some stock, running a business, paying taxes at the 42% or 28% or 23% rate that his business qualifies for. And it's nearly impossible because of the rate of inflation, because of the increasing cost of things and the amount of things you need to run your life. It's nearly impossible to jump in and get ahead. If you're trying to buy real estate in Southern California, haven't owned real estate for 10 years, it is incredibly difficult to step into a piece of real estate. So you're either in the game or you're not in the game in Southern California real estate. And you can think about it that way. If you don't own a home currently and you're envisioning having a beautiful home for your family, and the standard of home that you want to get into is, hey, I got to come up with $800,000 or $600,000, 25% down on a $3.5 million house or $2.5 million house, because that's what houses cost in our community that would fit our family. That's incredibly hard to jump into after-tax $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 down payment for a lot of people. Sheep economy, right? But if you live in the deep economy, where what I would say traders live, where private equity managers live, where venture capital managers live, where hedge fund managers live, boom, that stuff is easy to click into. So of course, can I give you one thing to click on, a thumbnail, that's gonna show you how to move from sheep economy to deep economy? No, of course not. But I wanna come back to the motorcycles, right? The reason that it's so hard to move from running a business or being a W-2 employee into the deep economy where we run finance, and it's easier to make money, it's easier to produce gains once you're in that deep economy. It's incredibly difficult to shift between those two positions. I'll come back to the motorcycles. In the United States, we have one real motorcycle company, right? And that is Harley-Davidson. In Japan, they have 4. They have Honda, they have Yamaha, they have Suzuki, and Kawasaki. Any motorcycle that's made for speed or longevity or price or winning races or touring Africa or going off-road was going to be Kawasaki, Honda, Kawasaki, or Yamaha first, right? Then you go to KTM, which was an Austrian company. Now who it's owned by is different people. Volkswagen now owns Ducati, so you throw those guys in the mix. Then you would probably go to MV Agusta and Aprilia, some Italian companies. Last on the list is America. Why? It's just the way to think about it is ecosystem. In Japan, they have been making very proficient, sexy, fast, run forever, low-cost motorcycles since the 1960s. It's now 2024, 2025, whatever, 60, 40, 65 years they've been doing this proficiently, and we've never done it. They have an ecosystem of industrial manufacturing to make incredible high-performance motorcycles. We don't have that ecosystem here in the United States. We cannot make it. Are we smart enough to make a high-performance motorcycle? Of course we are, right? We have MIT, we have Yale, we have Harvard, we have engineering schools, we have Boeing, we have Raytheon. Like, we do incredibly sophisticated stuff. The problem is if we make a motorcycle here outside of the manufacturing ecosystem where those kinds of products are made, we don't have any support system. So every part, every piece, every electronic piece, every piston, every light bulb, every suspension piece, every bit of brakes has to be made internally by us. There's no ecosystem. So that will make it. Can we compete with Kawasaki? Hell yeah, we can. The problem is that thing's going to cost $55,000, and you can buy the best Kawasaki motorcycle that they make, arguably. So that one right there is the Kawasaki 1000 RR KRT, which is their highest performing motorcycle other than the HP2, but that's something different. Race motorcycle, that thing's about $18,000. It would cost us $50,000 to make the same thing, and we wouldn't be competitive. So this is you. You're Harley Davidson, or you're America, right? And hedge fund managers, venture capital, private equity, finance guys, traders are Japan. We have an ecosystem. We have relationships. We have suppliers. We have vendors. We have connections. We have know-how. We've been doing it for a long time. And we know how to get into the deep system of economy here in the United States and produce money. It's very difficult for you to come over on this side because you're outside the ecosystem. So when I say produce money, what does that even mean? I'm going to share with you in a moment something called the yen carry trade. Yen, Y-E-N, carry, like carrying water, trade. This is going to, hope you're sitting down, this will blow your mind when you hear about it. And I want to walk you through it in a moment. I know what you want. You want pickup lines for money to close sales, do deal making, and negotiation. We will get you there over time until you have a basis of understanding of why the lines work, why the moves work, why the negotiation methodology works, right? Until you have an understanding of that, you won't be able to use it effectively. Can I tell you how to close a deal right now? Clickbait. Mr. Jones, what should we be doing together? So if you go say that, that's how I close every deal. John, look, we've gone through a lot of stuff here. I don't know, you're the boss of me for the next 90 seconds. Tell me what to do. What should we be doing together? So does that sound like a pickup line to you? Does that sound like a close? Does that sound like a way to negotiate? Does that sound like deal making? No, but it's the hardest core pickup line, negotiating line, deal closing line that I have. What works matters, right? It's how you set all this up. So as we spend time together, you're going to learn why this stuff works, and then boom, the closing is going to be very easy. In all of this, I don't want to use a bunch of metaphors and abstract explanations that you can't sink your teeth into. I get it. Give me a way to close deals, Oren, to make my time that I spent with you here valuable, and I am going to do that, all right? But they make metaphors for a reason. Helps explain stuff. I'm driving home from hockey with my son, right? And of course, he wants to listen to this book that he's listening to, this series of books by an author named Seth Ring, and it is about video games. So a guy gets impregnated into a video game world like Tron, and his trials and tribulations in the video game world. Of course, we, like you, hopefully, don't let our son play much video games. He's 11 years old. He needs to be learning science, technology, engineering, and math, reading, and learn how to play hockey better so we can win some damn games. But anyway, that's a different subject, winning hockey games. Right? So we don't let him have much video games, but he does get to listen to books about video games, except I am tired of these books. I get it. And I don't want to hear what's happening in the metaverse anymore. I want to listen to things that I care about. So the book that I'm listening to is The Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Rise of Nations. So my 11-year-old is complaining bitterly that this is putting him to sleep. And then we get into something like the early 1800s, where the Reformationists and the parliamentarians in England decide that King Edward has outlasted his usefulness, right? And they don't want to have a monarchy-run government anymore. And what they want to have is the government and the country run by parliament. So they capture King Edward and they lock him up, and they're debating what are they going to do with him. And so my son is saying, hey, this is the boringest stuff ever. I love it because I'm very interested in what happened in the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Rise of Nations, literally the title of the book. By the way, if you want to listen to this, the author and the guy reading it is a guy named Andrew Fix. He has died recently, but an amazing narrator, very knowledgeable about this subject. If you want to know where you came from, why you exist, and why you act the way you do and you live in America, it is because of the things that Andrew Fix outlines in this book, the Reformation, Renaissance, and the Rise of Nations. So anyway, my son is saying, hey, this is putting me to sleep. I go, it's not putting me to sleep. And he says, I'm very concerned, Dad, because you're driving me home from hockey. It's late at night. I'm worried. He's very smart, right? I'm negotiating. I'm worried that by listening to this book, you're going to fall asleep at the wheel, right? I'm like, I love this stuff. So anyway, they start getting into King Edward, and they lock up King Edward, and they're deciding, the parliamentarians, what they're going to do with him. And they decide that ultimately King Edward stands alone as a meme. So if they let him live, right, just the people's knowledge that he's alive would drive them to rally and revolt and have revolutions, because the idea of save the king would exist. So they decide to kill the king, and at dawn the following morning, off with his head. And literally in the narrative, they go, the executioner executed the king, and the executioners lifted up his head. And some quote that we use all the time in popular language came out of that incident. And that was the time of Oliver Cromwell, if you know that from your European history, from your history books, if you were paying attention. And so he's fascinated by that, right? Why? Because King Edward got his head chopped off on the morrow of when he was captured, and now he's really into the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Rise of Nations. Hey, Oren, what does this do with me? I just want to know how to close deals. I know that's a question. You will learn how to close deals eventually. But now he's fascinated by this book and wants to listen to it because things are actually happening. And this is the story of interest rates in your life. Things that are happening in the economy, right? There are things that you probably are ignoring because they are economic mumbo jumbo. The problem is, if you are selling me something, if you want me to invest in your deal or with you, if you're raising money, if you're selling me a company, if you're selling me a product, even a piece of software, SaaS software, and I feel that you are untethered from knowledge and information of how the economy is, the trajectory of the economy, where we're headed, what is happening, what's happening politically, what's happening with technology and AI, right? By the way, have you noticed that, and here's a perfect example, right? If you're selling me something, the technology, and you're unaware of why this AI stuff is happening this way, unless I'm desperate and you sell plumbing, I don't have confidence to buy from you versus somebody who really knows what's going on. So think about the AI, right? Have you noticed that the AI, the more you ask it to help you, the less helpful it is. It gives you some like incredible photo or some incredible answer on your first run, right? You ask it like, hey, how do I reduce my tax basis in 2025, given that I made $225,000 in net income, $750,000 in gross income, and I don't have a lot of write-offs. What are some methodologies that I can reduce tax to below 10% net tax rate? And it's like, gives you all this great stuff. And you pick one of those, you go, tell me more about that. And then it evolves into, you tell me more about it. Do you have any other questions? And it tries to have you solve your own question, right? That is because there's so much demand on it, on the ChatGPT system. It tries to spread its cycles through lots and lots of different users. It doesn't have enough firepower to give you more utility on the thing you asked about. That's the way it's coded. That's the way algorithm works. That's the way they're assigning the chips and the chip speed, everything like that. The more you want it to help you, the less helpful it gets. You can really see that in photos. So say, hey, draw me a photo of my son playing hockey with attack helicopters in the background, you shooting Nerf bullets, and him scoring the winning goal. And boom, right? And then you go, okay, I'd like the same image, except now I'd like his name on it, Asher, and his number 33. Do it again. And then you get, the next photo you get is nowhere near as good as the first one, and they spell 33 wrong. And you're like, hey, 30, you spelled 33, 23. You know, just all you have to do is put the two numbers. And so, oh, let me try again. And then there's a picture of an ice cream cone and a little girl in a dress and a balloon. You're like, what is happening? So it gets worse and worse. Why? There's reasons, right? And we don't get, we'll do why, the challenges of AI on a different week. But the point is, if you don't know why things are happening in the economy, it's hard to believe, buy something from you or do a deal with you. Why things are happening in the economy really stem from a couple of things. Number one, interest rates. What is happening to interest rates domestically, right? Which way are they trending? Because why? How much does it cost to use money? If I go to the money store, right, and I go to buy some money, I have to pay something for that money. Like, you want to build a house, right? And they go, oh, 2x4s are no longer $4. They're now $16. Whoa, that's a lot. This changes the size of house I can build and everything, right? The 2x4 store is really expensive. Money is sold in a money store. If I go to the money store and buy some money and it's super expensive, then the things I can do with that money change. The way we got here is my mechanic lives in the sheep economy above the line, and I live in the deep economy where my cost of money is low. His cost of money is super high. It is very high friction for him to get money. Let's say he wants to open a mechanic shop, right? The money he would need for that is very expensive. The places he could go get that money is limited. He has limited experience and relationships to go get that money, and it's just a very difficult life. For me to go get the money to open up 23 mechanic shops is relatively easy because I live in the deep economy where we move ones and zeros and have access to the lowest cost of capital that you can get. And that's where I want to put you. So I'm going to give you an example, as I alluded to it earlier, of the yen carry trade, YCT. This, if you're interested in doing it, if I get enough people want to do this, just not to really make money with it, it is going to make money, but if I get enough people interested in doing this, we're just going to go do it to show you what is really possible in this deep economy that I'm talking about. So the yen carry trade works like this. You go to Japan and you borrow money at the prime rate in Japan. As of November 13th, 2024, Bank of Japan's benchmark interest rate was 0.25%, right? So that low rate makes borrowing in Japanese yen very inexpensive, which is the key factor in the yen carry trade strategy. So the actual interest rate that we could borrow money at, is it 0.25%? Is it 1%? Is it 1.5%? I don't know. Like, we'll have to go fix this trade and figure out what's happening now. But the point is, let's just say we borrow money in Japan in yen for 1%. Then we convert that money into dollars, and that will cost us something to convert it into dollars. And then we go buy using that. So we got a loan for $10 million at a 1% rate. Now we go buy some bond that's paying 4%, right? And there's a 3% spread. So we're making 3%, and what are we doing? Are we opening a restaurant and serving customers? Are we have customer service for our SaaS software? Are we sending trucks and logistics all over the country? Are we answering phone? No. We're moving ones and zeros. We're moving money from one environment, from one ecosystem to another ecosystem, and we're making a spread. And there's people whose whole careers are made on this yen carry trade. Why aren't you doing that? There's lots of reasons you're not doing that. A, you don't know how. B, you never heard of it before until right now. C, you don't speak Japanese. You're not in the Japanese money markets. You don't know how to access the discount window for capital in the yen money market. You don't know which bonds to buy. You don't know what could happen with spreads, right? I know you don't know, and maybe I don't know perfectly, but I do know the people who know, and I'm going to go carry out this trade. Probably takes a fairly good amount of capital to make this trade happen. Call it $10 million, right? So I'm not asking you to send me 10 of us do $1 million each. Maybe I find $3 or $4 million to run this yen carry trade. Maybe you put $500 in it. But if you're interested, let's go do a yen carry trade. Borrow money in Japan, convert it to US dollars or to pesos, buy some financial instrument here, a bond that pays a high interest rate, and we make the spread, right? So let's figure out how to go do that. Next time I'm going to get deeper in this, but that's what is available or an example of the hundreds of mechanisms that are available for making money in the deep economy. Hey, Oren, how is this relevant to me? The more you understand there is a system of finance below the surface, which I would say 1 out of 1,000 business people have any inkling of. Let me get you there. So if you're running a plumbing company, how could this matter to you? Let's say it's time to sell your plumbing company. Who are you going to sell it to, right? 1, sell it to your employees. Worst sale ever, because they're going to want you to hold paper. They're going to pay you that you're going to continue to remain at risk for that company. That's not a good. Put it up for sale on Biz Buy Sell. Random people who know how to buy plumbing companies come in, negotiate you to death, retrade you, and do all the things that M&A transactions are known for, and you get slaughtered on the chopping block by people who know how to buy plumbing companies versus you who are trying to sell your first plumbing company. Is that a good place to sell it? Probably not. And so there's places to take this deal, not as a plumbing company, but as a security. That means you're not selling a company, you're selling the paper that underlies that company. And now you're moving ones and zeros, you're moving bits and bytes, you're moving paper in the deep economy where people will buy that from you because of what it represents, and you're not having to sell a plumbing company, you're selling paper. Much easier to sell. So that is a call to arms. I'm getting the hook on time. Let me summarize it like this. Yes, we're going to talk a little bit here about interest rates. Yes, we're going to talk here a little bit about what's happening in the economic sector. Yes, we're going to talk about what's happening in trades like the yen carry trade. And yes, we're going to try and do one ourselves and make some money way in the bowels of the economy. And I'm going to boil this up so you are able to sell more product, do sales and marketing better, and make more money in your business and sell it for more money and ultimately invest better. I'm going to do it fast. But we got to understand there's some things below the surface that affect everything you do. This has been a quick run through the Game of Money podcast. I'm Oren Klaff. This is sponsored by Pitch Anything. If you have a chance to buy the book, Pitch Anything, go ahead and do it. That's what pays for all of this to happen. I'll talk to you next time on the Game of Money.